So the story of how I became a Muslim and what my thoughts are about Islam. Okay, so I assume most people who hear your channel will be Muslims, or those maybe thinking about becoming Muslim. So inshallah, this will be of enormous benefit, maybe inspirational benefit to those who are already Muslim, and maybe it will be motivational benefit for anybody considering becoming Muslim. So first of all, let me give you salam to all those who are Muslims, and to wish my best wishes upon all those who are not Muslim but maybe considering becoming Muslim. I became Muslim in 1996. To give you some background, I was born to a Jewish family. My father and mother divorced when I was young, and I wasn't raised in a religious family at all. In fact, to the extent that my father, even though he was bar mitzvahed at the age of 13, gave me and my brother the option of not being bar mitzvahed or choosing to do so if we wanted to. We chose, both of us, not to, because we didn't believe in Judaism and we didn't really know anything about it. So it seemed almost hypocritical of us to really undertake an act of bar mitzvah when we had no real knowledge of the purpose or the meaning. Anyway, I was raised in a family with 4 siblings, and my father raised us. My mother wasn't on the scene, unfortunately. She was always very unwell. And I attended school. It was a predominantly Jewish school. It wasn't really a Jewish school. It was a state school that had, I would say, a disproportionately large number of Jewish kids, because it was the area that we lived in. I did reasonably well at GCSEs, and I did my A-levels at a tech college where I had my first encounter with Muslims. The tech college I went to was College of Further Education. I was in Redbridge, a place in London called East London, really, or North East London, called Redbridge in the county of Essex. And I befriended a Pakistani guy who became my best friend for a long time, actually. He was a really sincere person in terms of being very straightforward, wore his emotion on his sleeves, told you things as they were. And we became really good friends. He was highly intelligent, actually. He was a member of Mensa at a very young age and was just naturally gifted, but extremely lazy, unfortunately. Anyway, we did our A-levels together. He failed, I passed. He then took another 10 years or something ridiculous to finally get to medical school, which was his longer-term ambition. And I went on and took a year out. I worked and travelled in that year out after A-levels. And I spent 6 months in Palestine, actually in Israel, on a kibbutz. And then when I came back, I took up a degree in physics at Oxford. I graduated with the first in physics 3 years later in 1989, and then had another gap year. And then when I returned from my gap year of travelling around the world, mostly Southeast Asia and also, mostly Southeast Asia. I did various temp jobs in London. I started training as a chartered accountant at Pricewaterhouse in London, as it was then known, before it became PricewaterhouseCoopers. But that was a terrible decision. I hated accountancy, and even more, I hated audit. And then I took another year out, and after I returned, started a career in investment banking with UBS, Unibank of Switzerland in London, and then started with Credit Suisse. Now, between moving from UBS to Credit Suisse, I'd become interested in Islam for a very specific reason. My Pakistani friend, who I was still very much in contact with, who wasn't really at all a practicing Muslim, used to meet up with me regularly. And one evening we decided I think this was in April 1996, to go to Regent's Park Mosque in West London. We went to the mosque, and my friend Hassan, he decided to pray Isha, and it was quite late at night. We prayed Isha. He prayed Isha, but I joined him, and I joined him, and I'd travelled extensively by then by that age, and I was very open-minded to different cultures. I was an atheist all of my life. I'd never believed in God, so I'd been an atheist, and been quite a staunch atheist, in fact, actually, almost proud of the fact that science, I thought, could explain how we came about, the origins of the universe, and all of these things. So the arrogance that I had was really from science and the things that it could explain. I had no idea before I became Muslim about how limited our knowledge really is of science, and how it really doesn't explain so many things. Nevertheless, anyway, we found ourselves in this mosque, the Regent's Park Mosque in West London, in April 96. And I joined Ehsan in the wudu area. I made wudu, I splashed around, it seemed like fun, and then we went up to the prayer area. We were quite late for the salah, so we joined the last saf. And I went through the motions. I thought nothing of it. I thought this was fun. I went through the motions. I kind of went into prostration, and I was kind of half looking around to see what I was supposed to do, as well as actually devoting myself to this physical act of worship, knowing, of course, or feeling, of course, that this was meaningless, but just wanting to see how it felt like. But it changed me. And after the prayer was finished, we went out into the forecourt of the masjid. And if you're not familiar with Regent's Park, masjid, let me tell you, it's a beautiful masjid. And has a very large forecourt area within the confines of the mosque area. And we were followed out by a number of North African Muslims, and they were really sweet, they were really friendly, and they embraced me, and they wanted to know who I was.